The ListBox control shares a lot in common with the combo box. You'll use it to enable the users to select from a list. Differs in a couple of ways though. One is that it's not a drop-down list, so you see a number of the items at once, and you can control that by how high you make the list box. In addition, a user can select one or more items from a list if you let them. To populate a list box, you'll do the exact same thing that you did with the combo box. That doesn't change. So you'll use the items collection, which contains the items that appear, and then you can populate the list box at design time or at runtime the same way that you'd populate a combo box. And determining which item was selected is also the same. The selected index property returns the number representing which item was selected. Selected item is an object representing the actual item that was selected, and the selected index changed event occurs when a selection is made. So the basics of populating and the basics of determining which item was selected is the same between the combo box and the list box. But let's look at a couple ways list boxes differ. For one thing, you can enable the user to select multiple items from the list box. And to do that, you'll use the selection mode property. And this determines if you're allowing more than one item to be selected. If you set this to 1, which is the default, then the user can select only one item from the list. If you set the selection mode property to multi-simple, then the user can select more than one item in a list. For instance, by holding down the control key and then selecting a number of items. If you set selection mode to multi-extended, then the user can select multiple items by clicking one, holding down the mouse button, and dragging the mouse over a number of items that are next to each other, or by clicking an item, holding down the Shift key, and then selecting another item, and all of the items in between the two will be selected. Well, if the user can select multiple items in the list box, how do you know which items were selected? You can use the selected indices property to return a list of integers that represent the position of each selected item. So where a selected index returns one integer representing the item that was selected, selected indices returns a list of integers representing the item selected. And then similarly, the selected items property returns a list of objects representing the selected items. So let's go take a look at a demo that shows how to use list boxes in forms. Here's the combo box, list box, and checked list box controls form that we saw in the previous demo. And what we want to do now is look at the list boxes on the form. And these three list boxes display controls the same way that the combo boxes did. So the same controls that appear in the combo box also appear in these list boxes. This first list box was populated at design time, and the second two were populated at runtime. So let's go into the form, and first we'll look at this first list box. And if I click the ellipsis associated with items, then I see in the string collection editor the same list of controls that were in the first combo box. And I'm going to fill the second and third list box at runtime in the form's load event handler. The first list box, the items get added by calling the add method of the items property, and then the second and then the third list box, I add an array, this controls array, which is defined up here. So just as I added that array to the third combo box using the add range method of the items collection, I can do the same thing with the list box. And then the states list box, 5 items individually added. So if I select an item from here, I'm told that I selected item 6, which is the 7th item in the list, and that it's list box. So that code is exactly the same as the code in the previous demo that we used to see which item in the combo box was selected. We use the selected index changed event, which occurs when I select something in that combo box. Selected index gives me the index number, and selected item gives me the actual item. And then when I select a state, just as we did before, we use selected index, go into the array of state abbreviations to pull out the abbreviation for that state and also display the state name. So far, other than the way the control appears, the list box works the same way as the combo box. Let's look at how a list box differs from a combo box. And one way is in the ability to select more than one item. So if we come back into design mode, we can see that for this second combo box, the selection mode property is set to multi-simple. The options I have are none, which means the user can't select anything from the list, one, which is the default, the user can select one item, or multi-simple and multi-extended. So this second list box has selection mode set to multi-simple. This third one has selection mode set to multi-extended. And what multi-simple gives me the ability to do is click on more than one item and that selects them. If I click again, then that item is deselected. So I can select multiple items by clicking on them. In this list box where selection mode is set to multi-extended, I have three options. I can click an item, hold down the Control key, and select additional ones. I can click an item, hold down the mouse key, and drag to select. I can also select an item, hold down the Shift key, click another item, and then everything in between is selected. And if I want to know which items were selected, I can see that when I click the Results button, I selected 6 items, and here they are. So let's see the code to do that. That's in the click event handler of the Results button. The first thing I'm going to do is clear out this selected controls list item text box. Then I'm going to display the number of items that I selected. The selected items collection property has a count property, which will tell me how many items are in that selected items list, or in other words, the number of items I selected. Each of those items is an object, so I can loop through that. For each obj, which is an object in the selected items collection, I'm going to add that to the selected controls list box. And therefore, I can not only display the number of items, but work with each of them. So what you've seen in this demo is how a list box is similar to a combo box, and you've also seen how you can use a list box to enable the user to select more than one item.